Hey guys, I'm Erica. Welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm interviewing my sister and her boyfriend and comparing their experiences at two California state universities. My sister went to Cal Poly, which I also went to, and her boyfriend went to San Diego State University. I know that those are two very popular schools, and I feel like a lot of times people do choose between those two schools, so I thought it'd be interesting to compare both of their experiences. They both definitely do have different experiences. They majored in totally different things. Toma was a transfer student. Maddie started out at Cal Poly since her freshman year. I thought this video would be helpful for those of you who are looking into Cal Poly and San Diego State and trying to figure out which one might be the better fit for you.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I went to San Diego State from 2019 to 2021, and I was a kinesiology major.
And I'm Madeline. I went to Cal Poly from 2017 until 2021. I started as a nutrition major and then graduated as a construction management major.
Yeah, overall experience, if I could rank it out of 10, I would just put that as like an 8. I did community college for 2 years, so I was really excited going into undergrad program. So the excitement was there to begin with, and San Diego was a cool city. So yeah, overall, really good experience.
I would say I would rank mine probably a 9. Starting off freshman year, I probably would have said a 1 or a 0. I completely hated it and wanted to transfer. And then by the time I was graduating, I would have definitely ranked it like an 11.
When I was going to community college, I lived on an apartment complex on campus at San Diego State. I was essentially in the international students building, and like a few football guys were there usually too. So I saw a little bit of that, but I was too busy like working and going to the other school to really make that many friends. So the ones that I did were the ones that were French, just because that's where I came from originally. So I just connected with them that way. But then when I transferred to San Diego State, I moved into a house on Adobe Drive, which you can look up, is very close to the campus. And
his social security number is...
and I moved in with one of my friends' fraternity brothers. So everybody else in the house was in the same fraternity except for me. The house was very close to the campus, which made life a lot easier. Yeah, the environment that most of the people who live near campus have is pretty open. Usually you make friends with the neighbors, I would say, fairly easily, and it's usually a pretty relaxed environment. Expensive wise, I would say in terms of California, I would say average. It is like they definitely overprice the houses because they just fit like 8 people into the house that would usually house like 3 or 4. In terms of finding one, it can be pretty competitive. If you are looking for a house, you definitely have to look at least 6 months ahead. You usually will sign your contract, or your lease, 6 months ahead of time. So I would say, yeah, like if you're a freshman planning on moving to a house sophomore year, definitely start looking within your first semester or second semester.
So how much would you say is the average cost if you wanted your own bedroom and a shared bathroom in a house of like 4 people?
I paid around $800 for a shared room.
Okay.
In a house of 8 people. And the people who had their own room basically paid about like $1,200 to $1,400, I would say.
One thing, I obviously didn't go to San Diego State, but one thing I've noticed through all my friends that went there and through Toma is one thing that's completely different than Cal Poly. I would say pretty much everyone by the time they're a 3rd year does not live anywhere close to campus. They all move to PB on the beach and then commute like 30 minutes to school and basically
20 minutes.
20 minutes driving to school, which is just completely different than Cal Poly. So it was always interesting for me when I went over there to visit.
Yeah, once you turn 21, that will be where most of the party scene and just the living situations end up.
So freshman year, I lived in the red brick dorms. I was in a triple, which is super tight for the red bricks. I don't know. Erica actually has a video up showing my freshman year dorm. I did not have the best dorm experience personally. I think a lot of it had to do with just the specific dorm I was in. I was in the architecture dorm, And at the time I was a nutrition major and just had a really hard time making friends in my dorm. So a lot of my friends lived in the apartments in PCV, which was like a 15-20 minute walk, I would say, from my dorm. Honestly, a lot of my friends that lived in the apartments at the time too didn't love it. I think a lot of that has changed now with the new dorms. I think you're going to get a lot more of a traditional college experience. I've been in the new dorms and they're absolutely amazing. I think it has a lot more of the leave your door open and have people stop in and say hi. Some of the other red bricks had it a lot more than mine did. And maybe it was just my floor. Like sometimes I'd go up to the third floor and it seemed like it was a completely different environment. So maybe I don't know, got in my head that the dorm I was in wasn't for me, and then if I would have kept on trying, maybe I would have had a better experience. That was my situation freshman year. I do know some people that just, like Eric, had the most amazing freshman year dorm experience. So I think it's like everything. It is what you make of it. Second years, I know now some second years are required to live on campus. When I went there, you weren't. So the big thing was everyone would try to get a house, and houses are extremely competitive. Basically, unless you know someone that is graduating or leaving their house, it is very, very hard to get. So I was fortunate enough to know someone that was going to graduate. I was going to live with her sister. So we were able to pick up the lease, and we actually had a very amazing living situation. There were 4 of us in a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And I think I paid like less than $1,000, I'm pretty sure, a month. We were so close to campus, on a super fun street, and I really lucked out there. I know some people have to live farther away, or they opt to live in apartments, especially their second year, just because it is super competitive, and then they might opt for a house their third or fourth year.
I was not in Greek life, but the only people that I knew going into San Diego was my high school friend who joined a fraternity. Most of the people that I hung out with were from the same fraternity. And in terms of the social life, it's very exclusive, just the way San Diego State works, both for the sorority and the fraternities. The fraternities that are at the top will only mingle with the sororities at the top. The ones in the middle will only mingle with the ones at the middle, and they'll take the top if they can, and then like just as they go down like that. So going into parties as a guy, you either have to be in the fraternity or you really have to know a lot of people. Even when I knew enough people, I would say, in my opinion, like I still would have trouble every once in a while. So that's the big one. For girls, it's easier, as it usually is, but it can still be pretty exclusive. Talking to the people that have been in it, they absolutely love it. I think it's a great idea to join one when you're in freshman year. If you're a junior transferring like I did myself, personally I wouldn't recommend, because you're going to be the 21-year-old as a pledge and you're probably going to be buying a lot of drinks. I think it's a great experience. I highly recommend at least rushing and see if there is a fraternity or sorority that you connect with, and then if there isn't, then you can kind of make your own decision.
But I've been to a fair amount of San Diego State Greek life parties, and they are completely different than Cal Poly parties, especially like in the end of my time at Cal Poly, specifically once COVID hit. You did kind of have to be on a list, but it wasn't based on what sorority you're in. When I would visit San Diego State, they would specifically say like pull up your group me to prove what sorority you were in, which was kind of crazy to me, because even if you had a ton of friends in the frat, you couldn't get in sometimes. It was crazy. For me, I was in a sorority at Cal Poly. I was in AKO, and I loved it. I'm super happy that I did choose to go through recruitment my freshman year, especially once I transferred my major into construction management. It was pretty much the only way I really met other women, because Cal Poly construction is pretty much a male-dominated major. Even though everyone I lived with and my best friends weren't in my sorority, it was really great because then I had this other kind of connection to a broader group of people. Specifically freshman year, I remember like I would just wear my AKO sweatshirt, and it made me feel super good when people would just like smile at me or say hi to me, even if they didn't know me, because they knew that we were in the same sorority because I was wearing the sweatshirt. And little things like that, I think, did make my transition to college easier. I loved the events. The parties and everything were super fun, but that doesn't mean that you have to be in a sorority or fraternity to go to them. One of my best friends was in a different sorority at Cal Poly, and we took each other to our events a lot. So she'd come to mine, and it was totally encouraged, not a big deal at all.
My major was kinesiology with the general exercise specialist, like sub-branch essentially. And that was just because it's the only one that you're allowed to take when you're transferring, but you obviously can switch your major once you're at San Diego State. In terms of the teachers, I liked a lot of them. There's one in particular that comes to mind. His name is Fabio Camana, and he was the best teacher I ever had at San Diego State by far. He's just very active in like the world of fitness and exercise programming. So if that's where your route goes, you'll know who I'm talking about. So overall, the teachings were good. The only downside with San Diego, if you're going to be a kinesiology major, because that's the only thing I can talk about, is they are really leaning towards being very much more like business oriented and things like that. So the kines branch or the science branch of San Diego seems to be getting a little bit, they're just not given enough money, I think. So I don't know how it is now, but I'm assuming their trend was kind of going down that way. So financially, they're not being given as much as like the business branches or anything like that. But the education is still really good. San Diego State still has a very high reputation, specifically with physical therapy. Overall, really good. Unfortunately, half of my experience was through COVID, so most of it was online after that. But
so I started off as a nutrition major at Cal Poly. I was really enjoying that major. I thought the curriculum was good. I did find out I had to take a ton of chem, which was the thing that I probably liked the least about the major. I didn't switch out of nutrition because I didn't like it. It was more for me that I didn't understand, or I didn't find a career path that really made sense with some of my other life goals. So that is when I changed my major to construction management. Cal Poly is notorious for changing your major. I can only speak about my personal experience, but for me, it was not a big deal at all. It was pretty painless, honestly. I started the process of just having an initial conversation with a counselor, I think, my second quarter of my freshman year, so early on, but they just gave me a list of a few classes I needed to take, and as long as I got a certain grade in them, I want to say I had to get an A or a B, I could basically get into the major. I probably had it a bit easier because I started the process so early, and then I also was transferring from, or at least at that time, I don't know how it is now, a more competitive major to a less competitive major, specifically for females. They were trying to bring more females into construction. I think some of the classes I had to take were Calc 2, architectural engineering, like the first one in the series that you take, physics, and then just some intro to CM classes. And honestly, I think it was good because it gave me the opportunity to kind of understand what I was getting myself into. I still was able to study abroad and graduate in 4 years.
I had nothing on that one.
So I studied abroad the first quarter of my third year. So it was actually fall of 2019. So I got super lucky right before COVID. I studied abroad in Florence, Italy. I went through the CEA program, which made it really easy because I don't know if partner is the right word, but Cal Poly basically endorses their program, and they make it super easy to know what classes you'll get credit for. And there are a lot of Cal Poly kids that go, so you do have the opportunity to meet other people from other schools, but I would say at least half the people in my program went to Cal Poly, which personally I did like because I didn't know most of them, but it kind of gave me a level of comfort while I was so far away from home. Since I did go through CEA and I signed up for classes that I already knew I would get credit for, everything was super easy for me in terms of getting my credits to transfer back to Cal Poly. I could only take GE classes, so I took like a class that counted for art, I took Italian, which counted for something. I got credit for a cinema class that I took, and then I took a food and wine class that I did not get any actual college credit for. but that was a really cool experience. Oh, but since I did do that program, it was super easy for me to transfer my credits and have it obviously show up on my transcript. I do have some friends that kind of created their own programs or went through something that no one else at Cal Poly had done before. They were able to do it, but it was much more of a headache for them. And they obviously didn't have any other Cal Poly kids in their program, which if that's what you're looking for, there's totally opportunities to make that happen.
So quarter versus semester. I was on semester system, and I'm currently doing a quarter system. For me, the semester is just better just because you have a little bit more time to settle into the routine and the schedule, just because it's a little bit slower, and I mean, it's not going to make it necessarily easier.
I actually loved the quarter system.
Yes, it's so good, right?
Specifically because I think I cried like probably the first 3 times I tried to register for classes because it is so stressful, and a lot of times you just don't get the classes that you want, you don't get the teacher that you want. So I love that you can know, okay, if this didn't work out this time, I didn't get that class that I wanted, in 10 weeks I can try again. I personally love having little milestones of being like, oh, I just completed this. So I think that the faster paced, quicker turnaround classes was ideal for me. I also love it because all of your big breaks align with the end of the quarter. So for instance, after first quarter, you have Christmas break. And then after second quarter, you have spring break. And then third quarter, you have summer. To me, it was always huge. Like when I'd hang out with my San Diego State friends who were on the semester system, they'd be on spring break, but then they'd still have like assignments that they had to be working on over the break because they were in the middle of a semester.
Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope it was helpful, and please comment if you guys have more questions. They both said that they actually had a good time filming this video, so they would be willing to make more videos in the future. I definitely know that we did not hit nearly everything. I have a lot of videos on my channel about Cal Poly, so if you are interested in that, you can check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.